First, the top story in Canada, which is not even a story on most mainstream media outlets, is the fact that documents from the We Charity scandal have been destroyed. Documents that were legally ordered by the committee have been destroyed. Now, what's going to happen to this? Is he guilty? Of course he's guilty of an ethics violation. This is the most clear ethics violation you've ever seen. Like, when you think of political corruption, this is sort of what the We scandal is. It's exactly what you think of when you think of political corruption. We'll get into it in a second. But here you have documents that were legally ordered. They didn't want to give them to the committee. And these documents pertained to the speaker's fees paid to the Trudeau family, which I go ballistic over because we're going to get into his brother Alexandre or Sacha Trudeau in just a second. They were destroyed. But before, the committee kept trying to, the speaker's going to try and delay giving the documents to the committee. Things of it were redacted. They even prorogued Parliament. They just Trudeau shut down Parliament for a month to delay this. Then he comes back, then they ask for more delays. They're granted time by the committee, and then before they're set to be delivered, oops, we burned them. Oopsie doodles, we just burned them and shredded them, and now no one can ever look at them. For the Canadian media, which spends so much time in Trump moral panic, of how he's, a dictator, he's destroying democracy, Russia, even Ukraine. And we all know that Biden was clearly more guilty on Ukraine, which is why they never brought up the Ukraine stuff in the middle of once Biden won the Democratic nomination. But for the Canadian media to say almost nothing about this. Remember, I watched the CBC, so you don't have to. I watched a whole hour of the CBC the day after it broke on the National. You want to guess on how many seconds were devoted to this development? If you guessed 0, you would be correct. 0 seconds devoted to the fact that the Liberals destroyed documents that were legally ordered pertaining to an investigation against them. Now, if you need a background of what we are talking about here, the We Charity scandal. We Charity is formerly Free the Children, but now they're more of a cult / slush fund for the Liberal government. So, what people tend to like about Trump is the fact that he was a billionaire going in. Part of the reason he won in 2016, Russian Facebook bots. No. Part of the reason he won is because he went up there on the stage and said, listen, I'm a billionaire, I could buy all of you. I've bought some of you before, right? No one can buy me because I have lots of money. And then he gave his salary to charity, right? Trump's net worth went down after entering office. Somehow, Barack Obama, a public servant for life, is able to buy a $10 million mansion in Martha's Vineyard. Now, that can be explained because honestly, you become president, you're super famous, half the country will love you, write a book after you leave office, it will sell, like Bernie Sanders being a millionaire. He ran for president saying, everything must be free. I have this new idea. It's called everything must be free. And I give you this for free, and I give you that for free, and if it's not free, it's racism or discrimination or something, where am I? Right? And part of the country, part of the world, every time you say everything should be free, they're like, oh my God, this is so revolutionary. Why has no one ever thought of just printing tons of money and giving everything away for free? And then why do we even need, farmers and people producing things when we could just all have money instead of services, right? And what a fascinating idea. It's like, well, every time that's been tried in the last 150 years, it results in mass death. But Bernie Sanders did the whole everything must be free, I'm the best, everything must be free, abolish prisons, abolish this. And then he wrote a book. And a lot of people bought it like, oh, what does Bernie Sanders have to say about this? Healthcare, free. Education, free. Food, free. This book, you have to pay for this book. Everything except this book, free. Right? So Bernie Sanders wrote the everything must be free except this book, right? Good for him, he's a millionaire. America's a great place where even the socialists in America can own 3 to 4 different houses. But we have Canada. Let's scale it back to the We Charity scandal. So what people generally think of politicians is they get richer in office. And there are legitimate ways to do it, right? You go, you have your career. Once you're done your career, you write your book, you get money off your book, and then you're rich. Fine. Okay? You do your speaking fees. Fine. You're Hillary Clinton, you go to talk to Wall Street, they give you $500,000 for 15 minutes of your time. Unethical, fine. Legal, sure. Okay? How did Justin Trudeau enrich himself? So Justin Trudeau basically turned We Charity into a political slush fund. And what the We Charity was is they'd be getting, there was almost $1 billion. So they were given $900 million by the Liberal government. There was no competing grants, and this was to administer a student jobs program where they'd be paid below minimum wage. And even at the bit, like it was like, I think it was tabulated, it was like 50 million of the $90 million was accounted for in, just by paying these students. But we're going to pay the We Charity $900 million. So that's sort of corruption. Like, why are they overpaying for this? And then the real scandal is, they were overpaying, and the We Charity did two things illegally. One, they were making propaganda videos for the Trudeau government. You can't do that as a charity. Now, I'm not going to relitigate all my opinions on, who should be, like, I have completely different opinions than everyone else, I guess, in the Canadian government over how we should structure sort of election funding and electoral ad laws. I think they're all silly. I think there's too much moral panic over money in politics. I don't think it's as, I just don't think money in politics affects politics as much as people think it does. But you still can't do that, okay? You can't have laws that basically bar every other type of funding and then use this as a backdoor to create ads. Like that's, so yes, I still have a problem with this because they're circumventing the different things. So they destroyed these documents that might have alleged funding of Trudeau's. So this is the second part. So you have the illegal funds, the illegal advertising done on behalf of the Liberal Party. So basically, they are paying lots for advertising and circumventing the laws, which I think are stupid laws, but they're still breaking them. The second thing they did is they were using it as the slush fund. So this is what you think of when you think of political corruption. It's the We Charity scandal, right? SNC-Lavalin, I will give it, was a bit more complicated, way worse, but a bit more complicated. We Charity is pretty simple. Liberals give way too much money to an organization, a charity. They then work on behalf, pushing their narrative. They then funnel in speakers' fees money to all the Liberals and politicians who awarded them such exorbitant fees to begin with, right? This is what people think of when they think of political corruption. This is illegitimate wealth gain through office, right? There's legitimate ways to do it, right? Once you leave office, write your book, right? Trudeau can write the, when Trudeau's done in being prime minister, you can write the book. Justin Trudeau, steel tariffs, drink box, water bottle type sort of thingies, right? The Justin Trudeau story. Write that book, right? You can read the book, it'll be ghostwritten by probably someone who speaks the English language, whoop-de-doo. But you cannot use government funds, funnel them to a charity, then have them funneled back towards you and your family. So the documents pertaining to the fees paid to the Trudeau family specifically were destroyed. And I've said this a lot, okay? Trudeau's mother, I would never pay her to speak. I don't think she's the most brilliant mind out there, but she's a name in Canada, and she has a story, and she's publicly struggled with mental illness. There's an excuse you can give to bringing Margaret Trudeau to speak to kids. I don't buy it. I wouldn't send my kids, but there's a thin veneer in which it can be acceptable. Okay. You know who's not qualified to speak to kids? Sacha Trudeau, advisor to Justin Trudeau, or Alexander Trudeau as he's known. Now, I don't think we should hold people accountable for their family's opinions, okay? Obviously, I believe that. I mean, Erin O'Toole's campaign team is suing my family for things I said. I don't know why, but, I think it's a pretty horrendous thing to do. Now, it would be more legitimate if one of my family members was listed as my chief advisor, right? Like Justin Trudeau's brother is his advisor, one of his advisors. So what does Alexander Trudeau have to offer to the children? What did he do before he became into political office? Even his mother describes him as a bit of a radical, all right? So his last job was a propagandist. For who, you may ask? Who was employing Sacha Trudeau? Well, Press TV, that is the English language propaganda network of the Islamic Republic of Iran, one of the most brutal and oppressive regimes to ever exist. It's like if 1984 and ISIS had a baby, you get the Ayatollah Khomeini and Khomeini. Khomeini. Sorry. Actually, you know what? Not so Ayatollah. You're both ugly and you smell bad. But, so, fun fact of the Islamic Republic, friend of mine I have friends who have spent time in jail in Iran for protesting and forming a student union. My friend once, his cellmate in Iran was a 16-year-old boy on death row for being a Baha'i 3 times. He was convicted 3 times of being a Baha'i. So apartheid, Israeli apartheid. In Iran, like, it's literally a crime to be a Baha'i. But this is the regime that Sacha Trudeau worked for as a propagandist, making English language documentaries. One documentary made for Press TV was an anti-Israel one, basically, typical historical revisionism, omitting facts, Jews bad, Palestinians amazing, blah, blah, blah. The second one was advocating for nuclear weapons for Iran. Why can't Iran have nukes? The reason why Iran cannot have nukes is because publicly they declare what they will do with the nukes is use them to destroy the free countries in the world. They will bomb Israel, they will bomb America, and they want world domination, according to their own thing, okay? The reason why the Quds Force, the international arm of the IRGC, is declared a terrorist organization, even in Canada, is because in its mandate, they call themselves terrorists. They say their job, world domination, create a global caliphate run on Sharia law as dictated by the Ayatollah. Right? And the way they do this is they will sponsor terrorist groups, or they call them cells of resistance, in their friggin' charter, guys. Right? They will sponsor cells of resistance. Right? This is basically anywhere in the world they see Shiites gathering in numbers, they will sort of give them weapons and training and radicalize them, throw in foreign soldiers, whatever, sort of create some sort of insurrectionist coup, terrorist operations, and then use them as political bargaining chips to further their power. This is the regime that Sacha Trudeau worked for. Also Jeremy Corbyn. Now, fun fact, Press TV was banned in the UK because they were caught airing the forced and coerced confessions of tortured political prisoners. That's right. They would torture people who were, like, say, we should have freedom. They torture them, and they bring them, like, black and bruised and, like, gaunt looking onto Press TV. And, with a gun to their head and, their family in jail, they'd say, I'm sorry, I am guilty of asking for freedom in Iran. I should never have done it. The Ayatollah is the greatest. And then these people would disappear a few months later. They were dead. They're dead. This is where Sacha Trudeau worked for. So why was he teaching the kids? Like, the We Charity was giving this man, a man who worked for a regime, worked for a company that was connected to a regime that tortured people and put their confessions on video, murders children for being Baha'i, and wants to nuke the world. Which one of these values best appeals to the Canadian youth, in your opinion? Nuking the world? Jews bad? Murdering Baha'i people? Freedom of speech bad? Well, I guess that's kind of what's being taught in Canadian schools anyway. But what? Why was Trudeau's brother paid speaking fees? We'll never know, because they destroyed the documents. Which brings us to another point here. What's the worst that can happen to Trudeau? A $500 fine? So Bill Morneau go. Bill Morneau, oh, I just forgot to pay back the $41,000 We Charity gave me. Yes, it's just $41,000. Who could keep track of that? Man of the people. That Bill Morneau. So the documents were destroyed. Clearly, there's an ethics violation even before that. What are the consequences? We need to be able to throw politicians in jail. I'm sorry. Like, this is such obvious corruption. How could this not be illegal? Now, let me spoil this for you. Next, you're going to find out that, yes, Justin Trudeau was guilty of an ethics violation on the We Charity scandal, and he'll get a boop, and then a little tap on the wrist, then a little kiss it better. Maybe a $300 to $500 fine. I think Justin Trudeau might have to pay $300 to $500 for taking, like, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions in bribes. But, we'll hit him with that $300 fine, so watch out, don't do that again. Right? We in Canada need to make it that there's actual criminal repercussions to your actions in Parliament. Because as long as there's literally no repercussions to your actions in Parliament, why would they ever stop? Like, there's literally no consequences to their actions. Literally none. And And you know what I want for consequences of their actions? Like, you know what I'd settle for jail? I would just settle for this being 15 minutes on the news cycle for a whole week, like it should be. Just pretend that Donald Trump did this. Pretend for a second that Donald Trump used federal funds to fund a charity that was making advertisements promoting Donald Trump, making Donald Trump videos, showing them to kids, sending them hundreds of millions of dollars. They then sent speaking fees to Jared, Ivanka, Eric, and Donald Trump Jr. They were siphoning up millions of this. And then all the documents pertaining to this illegal activity were legally ordered by the House Democrats and then destroyed by Donald Trump. Just pretend that's the story. Just pretend. I don't care. Just say Donald Trump too. Just run the story as Donald Trump did this. We can all freak out about Trump, and then they'd be like, oh, actually, it was Justin Trudeau.